thank you for joining me. And, really, I think to me, what's impactful isn't the fact of the journey that you've had in life, but what I think is really impactful is how you used each of those situations to benefit others, or the fact that, as Steve poured into you, whether you were appreciative of it or not at sometimes, and that's sometimes maturity, right? I think you were appreciative of what I've learned, but didn't always recognize it, how that is in turn to say, man, here's a guy that even when I did everything to have him, I don't want to say turn his back on you.
He should have.
He gave you an opportunity, and then to know that's been a big part of your journey too. I mean, I can only imagine, and I'm saying all this and admiring you. I've read your book, listened to your podcast, Journey Principles, and what I see there is you have this multi-state organization, 400 employees, right, give or take.
Yeah.
That only happens with tremendous leadership ability, and so that's where I really kind of want to step in. And what did you learn in that journey, that tough journey of life, that helped you be the leader that you've become and are to really mentor and serve people?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for, number one, let me share some space with you, but secondly, for saying so kind things about leadership. Reason being is because leadership has never been, was never easy for me. What happens when you take a high school dropout, ADHD, dyslexic kid, and you throw him into business for himself, you pull stuff out of the trash piles, right? So it's like, where did this go awry, right? And, my faith is a huge part of my own journey, but I think at the end of the day, I finally realized that I was building more than a job for myself, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs, when they first start out, they're not sure if their thing's going to work. They're maybe they've got aspirations of driving the fancy cars and having the big house and all this kind of stuff, right? That's what I call the wish list, right? But they don't necessarily take into account all the sacrifices and stuff along the way. And some of my biggest growth moments were realizing how poor I was doing as a leader. Here's what I mean by that.
Yeah.
My first 7 or 8 years in business, I hadn't got hired my first official team member. I might have been 5 years in business. And he was my ride or die. At least he felt like my ride or die for a long time. Some other things happened down the road that maybe we'll get into, maybe we won't. But I did not know that everybody didn't think and act like me. That everybody wasn't as driven as I was, or no one else had what was kind of like at the heart of what was driving me, the want, the overcoming limiting beliefs, I've got to beat the Scoggins, don't get ahead, get by lie. I got all this kind of stuff, right there. No one knew about that stuff. And to be honest, one of the biggest mistakes I made as a leader was not actually telling people what the story was. I had been in business almost 12 years before I ever told a single team member that I used to be homeless, or that I'd never been to college. I had people that working for me that had MBAs, right? And they're listening to the homeless high school dropout. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like it made no logical sense. And then they would tell me all the time, I said, well, I've just learned so much from you. I said, and the only thing I could think of is that I finally had an aha moment that said, if I want to step out and do something amazing, like if I want to do what Steve did for me, which is create a legacy that outlives myself, right? If I want to step out and do that, then I know at the end of the day that I'm holding myself back. I knew in the moment when I would have those defensive conversations when somebody would push back on me and I would bark at them because I own the place, whatever, you know what I'm saying? I knew in those moments I was wrong. I already knew it. And then I would go home and beat myself up about it. But I wasn't even actually thinking about how that was responding to them, whether or not it was creating a safe environment, non-safe environment, et cetera, how they felt about it. And lo and behold, man, I had people that fought and died for me. I mean, they were great team members, And I would dare say I probably pushed away about 20% of some of the best team members I've ever had by accident because I wasn't aware. I didn't know what I didn't know. Most of us are blind spots because other people see them, we don't. And I think my leadership really started to take shape once I started getting poured into by other mentors. Because, Steve Meyer taught me a ton. Susan Batts taught me a ton. Frank Wiesner taught me. I had a lot of really good mentors, but I began to outpace their level of success is not the right word, but to outpace their level of growth in business, in finance, in relationships. And if we're all honest with ourselves, most entrepreneurs, if they're honest with you, would tell you that 90% of the time they actually don't really know what they're doing, right? Meaning it's like instinct.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's ignorance on fire. I mean,
it is.
The people
really
that have been the most successful that I know are just, I've heard this saying is knowledge on ice, you're not going to get. It's ignorance on fire that just has, success.
Yeah, and I think it's part of every entrepreneur's growth. It's part of all of our journeys. Because we start a business, we have a dream, we have an ambition. Maybe it's not like it was for me. It's like I had a necessity, right? I had to eat, right? That's not everybody's starting point. I was listening to a couple of new people that I'm following now that were talking about, how they got out of college and then they went and, saved a bunch of money, lived on some floors and just kind of waited it out and saved, capital. And that has its own hustle, right? But at the end of the day, all of us are going to have to overcome ourselves. And all of us are going to have to become aware of ourselves, and most people are not aware. There's the whole ignorance is bliss. You can be peaceful and happy thinking you're doing all the right things, but if your team is scared to death to talk to you or scared to share their ideas with you that can help you actually scale a company, then you are the one holding your business back, and I was that person.
Yeah.
And, all the way up to that led me to having one business. Now, there was a transformation that happened in the middle. And I went to a conference with someone who I consider a friend. I might be more of an acquaintance on his side, but somebody I see 2 or 3 times a year. I went to a conference called EntreLeadership, and one of Ramsey's organizations, and Dave was on stage, and he started talking about all the different failures and stuff that he had made and dumb butt decisions he had made. I'm like, me too, me too, me too, me too. Simultaneously, I'm kicking my face, like I'm eating my feet, like, oh, I did that wrong, I did that wrong, I did that wrong, I did that. And I had to have someone that had had a similar journey to better understand my own. Which is why I think finding people along the way that you can resonate with and help out on a consistent basis is by far the easiest way to actually take advantage of a leadership growth curve, if that makes any sense.
So, I mean, there's a makes perfect sense. It's a journey that I've walked and continue to, here's the thing that I'm guessing, I know this about me, is those journeys still happen. And that means I can still grow, which I'm thankful, because if I'm not growing, I'm dying, right? I just might as well be dead. But there's a certain amount where I believe that perseverance that you had to get through those, to get to those growing points, that perseverance was really built upon a lot of ignorance at a certain point. Because if you know, then you're not willing to almost go, because then your ego gets caught up. It's like, well, if I let them know how much I don't know, well, then all of a sudden I'm not going anywhere. As opposed to, I don't know what I don't know, so let's just go. And I think there's, I'll share this. We grew up on a farm, and there's a certain amount of work ethic that I heard you share in, growing up with your dad and framing and doing construction work, that there's a part of me is, I was too, I don't want to say too dumb, but it was just, I didn't know any different. I just had to do. And I think when you learn that at every stage in life, whether it's construction, whether it doesn't matter where it is, sports. If you learn that there is no other option, I just have to do, I think there's 2 things that happen. Is you can push people away if you don't handle it right, but you allow yourself to get to that point to where you can grow.
Yeah, totally. I was thinking about that as you were mentioning that. My journey, albeit difficult, there's this image that we have to celebrate success. We celebrate entrepreneur success all day long. What matters most to me is celebrating the entrepreneur's sacrifice. That's what matters to me, because I know what a struggle it is to not just go through the motions of making payroll, and all that stuff is it's super important, right? Brand and building out an organization and scaling it, all that stuff's super important. But what I mean is the nights that you stay up in your closet crying, or in your pillow crying, or on your back deck on a phone call because the customer just said, hey, look, we're going to go a different direction. And you're like, you're 70% of my business, dude. What are you talking about? All of those crazy
But you've had those
rides.
Experiences too.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, entrepreneurship is entrepreneurship. Those that are truly entrepreneurs are warriors at heart. They don't, maybe the ignorance of not knowing that it all could not work out is actually a good thing. Yeah. I would dare say, as a person of faith, that my experience has been that if I could actually see where, again, my person of faith, where God was taking me, I never would have taken the steps.
Yeah.
Like, I never would have taken a step forward. I'm like, traveling around speaking? No, thank you. Writing a book? God, I'm ADHD dyslexic. No, thank you. Right? Instead, what happens is the trial and error, I actually think, created a certain level of wisdom, a certain level of experiential wisdom. And I think I'm a better leader because I was a bad leader before.
Yeah, I get that.
Because I can also see bad leadership in my own team, right? I can say, dude, that's not going to end well. Don't do that. I hit that wall too.
I got the scars to prove it, right?
Exactly. And when you're able to, it's like with anything else. It's funny. I can't tell if Rory came up with a quote or if I came up with a quote first. It's like a signature piece that he and I fight about and joke around a little bit about. But I believe that the greatest purpose in life is serving the person you used to be. Now, he says it basically the same but differently and about a different thing. Everything that makes me accessible today, or someone who's worthy of sharing a voice. I mentioned that before about that, having this essence of being worthy to have a voice. I realized was earned spiritual revenue or earned mental revenue, right? It's my retained earnings of experience that allows me to now lead people. I'm able to go to my team and say, guys, we treat people how you want to be treated. You can say it came from Ramsey. You can say it came from the Bible. I don't care where you say it came from, but we have it here. Which means if one of my team members, I've got a couple team members that got some family things going on right now, right this very moment, that are very difficult in any family. People are dealing with illness. People are dealing with death. People are dealing with lots of different things. I'm able to go in and say, team, guess what? This is how we roll. How we roll is so-and-so over here is going through a difficult time. It's up to so-and-so to tell you what that difficult time is. But for the next 30 to 60 days, we are going to help them. We are going to pick up the boxes. They see me picking up boxes. In fact, I get a lot of flack because I do a lot of my own construction work in the building, which is kind of funny. But literally, it looks like you're highest paid. Like, anyway, moving on.
We can come back to that. I want to come back to that, but keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, all of that to say that when you create an environment of safety, you create an environment where everybody feels seen, heard, and valued, then you tend to get the best out of people. Yeah. And people don't like to leave that lifestyle. So one of my leaders, one of my executive leaders told me this week, he said, I actually got a job offer a week ago. I'm like, you did? He's like, yeah. And it was for quite a bit more than what you're able to do right now. But you did? Okay. And what do you think? Because I'm not going anywhere. Okay, why? Because this is my home. Awesome. I also know that now I've got somebody I can keep an eye on to see if I can't promote to a higher level.
Sure.
Because it's not just because there's this element of selfishness that has to come out of us all, right? As an entrepreneur, about I own the company, everything's all mine. Look at all my flashy stuff, right? Screw that. No. If you want to scale an organization and build a legacy-based organization, one that is in multiple states, maybe one day countries or whatever that looks like, it cannot be about you at all.
Yes.
You might be the face. You might be like in my case, I'm the guy that drove the very first nail, right? I have done every single position in each one of my companies at least once. All because I'm looking for a place to understand what the role entails. So when something comes up, I'm able to go to that team member and say, I understand what your role entails. I understand our metrics. I understand what's holding you back. I think you're doing an awesome job at X, Y, and Z. We got to focus on this one thing here. By the way, you're an awesome person. I can't wait to work with you some more. Let's make sure we knock out this thing in the middle, okay? And in almost every case, it's not an attack. It's a mentor relationship. In fact, our production meetings each week, we started live streaming on Instagram every so often. I'm literally got part of my team in a room, and I'll just start talking to the team. And it's just me. Like this week, tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about problem solving, how to solve any problem, right? And that message is predicated on solving, because I had problems to solve Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You see what I'm saying? And that's what real leadership is to me. It's the real leaders do it first. Real leaders may do it messy, but real leaders also care.
So I want to get back to the what I call humility, active humility, but I want to touch on something right there. And I picked this up and I see this. The best leaders are sharing the problems they're solving right now. Yeah. Because everyone can see that from the outside and they're like, Stephen, we know you're dealing with this and you're teaching them lessons. Hey, this is what I'm learning in the midst of it. It's not, hey, talk to me 3 years down the road when I'm an expert because I've studied this. Like, no, let me tell you what I'm learning in the midst of it. And guess what? Tomorrow I may learn something different. To me, that's what's really powerful. That goes back to that vulnerability piece that you said you learned earlier, because to me, that's why that guy didn't want to leave. Because he's like, I know that, Stephen's not just somewhere different and, there's these barriers between us. There's connectedness. There is, authenticity. I'm in it with him because he's sharing with me. And so I don't feel like there's this separation because you're teaching what you're learning in the moment. And I think that's so powerful for any leader.
Well, I think all of it, we're surrounded all day long by little teachable moments. The stuff that would actually help people get breakthrough in their life, get breakthrough in their job, get breakthrough in their business, the stuff that actually works happens day in and day out.
Yeah.
I did like a little rant earlier today on stories just for fun. I was like, everybody that's reaching out to me on LinkedIn wants to be my friend.
Hey, thanks for connecting with me, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you didn't do this, so you're in good shape. But
okay, I'm good.
The people that have done it previously have just been like, hey, nice to connect with you. I want to sell you something.
Yeah, I hate it.
We have zero relationship. I don't know anything about you, and I don't want to be rude, but I like doing business with people I know, like, and trust, and I can't do business with people I know, like, and trust if I don't know you. So let's build a rapport. Let's build a relationship. Don't come straight at me for what I can bring to you or what value I can bring to you. That kind of stuff is that's a rant, right? That's a thing.
To me, as someone has described this once, that's like walking up to somebody in a coffee shop and say, "Hey, let's get married right now."
Yeah,
you're bald, both of us, right?
Yeah,
I'm not down with that. And it's just kind of like, no, I mean, you gotta, maybe, hey, they're beautiful, whatever it may be, great.
Yeah.
But you have to develop that relationship. You have to build that trust. Because if not, the reality is the relationship will go sideways. I had and I imagine you've had this situation too. I had a client told me once, and he goes, Tyler, if somebody, comes at you and it's a cold call and they hire you that day, guess what? They're going to hire somebody else on a cold call too.
Yep.
And it's like, I don't want those customers. Not because they may not be amazing people and have amazing customers that come from cold calls, but it's like, I'd much rather have the person that's either a referral or that we go through that relationship building, because it comes back to the guy that you mentioned.
Yep.
When somebody else offers something rosier, are they going to see the entire picture?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And the reality is I want to be of value, and I don't want to be taken advantage of. And I think whether it's in your business, it's your relationships, or whatever, if you go at that entity and you're trying to solve what I refer to as the three needs, so to be seen, to be heard, and to be validated, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you apply those three principles right there to any marriage, any business, any customer, any personal brand, anything you're trying to do, and the focus is not on you, but it's on the other person feeling seen, heard, valued, and validated, then you can create something really amazing.
Yeah.
And, part of the reason I'm doing what I'm doing now, just in full candor, I mean, one of the biggest struggles that we've had in my businesses is, what do we do with Stephen? What do we do with Stephen? Like, Stephen's our creator, our founder. He's our CEO. He's that. I had to leave here yesterday and drive to go to Boone, North Carolina, which is 3 hours from here, to have a 15-minute meeting with a customer because something went haywire. I came right back and then did a full-fledged podcast hour for 2 hours. Like, we can't put Stephen in a box. What do we do with Stephen? We like what we like when he teaches us stuff on Fridays, but we're also a little uncomfortable with it now. He's teaching it to the world. And I actually had a teachable moment with my team a few months back. I said, let me ask you a question based on what you just said. Is that selfish?
Mm-hmm.
Is that selfish? Is it okay for me to teach you and not teach them when you both have the same struggles? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so there's been internal conversation. What do we do with Stephen? 7 businesses, 400 plus team members, and yet Stephen is now, on great shows like this. Stephen's now doing live events. Stephen's now like, what do we do with it? And they finally came down to, we have to let Stephen be Stephen. Stephen's not abandoning us. all because he's doing this. He's not abandoning that, all because he's spending time with us. Stephen is Stephen.
Yeah.
My DNA, my greatest purpose is serving the person I used to be, and the person I used to be was broke and broken. And I'm sorry, but 67% of the population falls in that category, and that was before COVID.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which means I've got the experience. Let's go.
And I think it comes back to, and one of the things that I've learned is part of that, the person is serving the person that you used to be, or serving the person that you couldn't save, serving the person that, you're trying to, it's just part of that is there's this insecurity in that. And, as you relay that to me, there's that insecurity. And a lot of times the greatest fear that we have, and this comes from my wife, and she's shared it, the greatest fear people have is rejection.
Yeah.
And so as I'm relating to this story, and from a leadership perspective, the worst thing that we can do is act in a way that others feel rejected. Even if we're empowering them, even if we're saying, I believe in you, there has to be this hurdle to get over that you're not being rejected. Actually, you're being kicked out of the nest because you can fly, and I want to see you fly, because if you stay here in this nest, then that's where you're going to be stuck. And, if you go be you, I look at that and see excited, then that means somebody else in your organization gets to rise up. They get to do things they used to do. And to me, that's what's exciting. That's what's fun. And, I think if you've had that motto, as you've learned that, that's why your businesses have grown to what they are. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that, I had this concept that I went and did some studying on. This might surprise you. All right, so people that perform at the top 1%, all right, so people that make $1 million net income plus, okay? People that are in that boat, all of them have mastery level skills at certain things, okay? Studies would say 8 to 12, mastery level skills. Here's what surprises me. Here's what surprised me. Only 32% of them take those skills and teach them to someone else. That means the vast majority of wealth, which is knowledge and wisdom and experience, is being wasted generation after generation after generation, which is why your show is so important, is because you're talking about the concepts that keep those things alive. You talk about the mastery level things. The only thing that I've had to been really forced to try to begin to master is myself. How I respond, how I react, how I give, how I show up. Am I asking my team to do crap that I won't do? Or am I asking my team to do stuff they've already watched me do? You see what I'm saying?
Yep. Which comes back to why you built the studio. So this is my belief. People listening to the show know I have cows. I grew up on a dairy farm. I have cows. I still have cows. Last week, I drove 2,100 miles in 2 days, one night, for a 10-minute drop-off of cows, because I do that. You know why I did it? To stay humble.
Yeah.
To stay humble. To realize, you know what, I can do that. Why do I get up twice a day, every day, to take care of cows? It's cathartic
Grounding.
time. I still work out. It is grounding. It's something I enjoy. Working with animals will teach you more about people than I've ever learned. Why are you building the studio? Because my belief, it keeps you humble.
Well, thank you. I'm definitely grateful for that. I mean, that's definitely the environment in which I want to come across the world is humbly confident. But I would say it's in a roundabout ways. There's a couple different things. So first of all, there is an element of trying to stay grounded and humble, but there's also it's also therapeutic.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm the guy that literally built a business with my own two hands, right? The hammer and the nail and the pump jacks and the saws and the whatever. And again, we mentioned an organization that is close to my heart called Brand Builders that Rory and AJ Vaden founded. And one of the things that I've had the pleasure of discovering is how many amazing people have amazing brands that have yet to be discovered. Okay? Meanwhile, there are brands that are established brands that are just really, really good at marketing. Right? So when you uncover the Tupperware, you realize it might be moldy cheese in the contents, right? And one of my biggest frustrations that I had in trying to put this together is trying to be real with people and trying to be not be a markety person. There's nothing wrong with marketing as long as it's done correctly. Don't get me wrong, but in a situation where I had the access to create, and so I I'm a self-doer. I'm a bootstrap guy. So I just kind of gave up and said, "Oh, fine, I'll just do it myself." I bought a 27,000 square foot facility. I put all of my businesses, most of my team members under one roof. And then, you know what? I built out a stage. And then I used the stage to service the local church on the nights and weekends. And, you know, and that relationship that I've been developing with brand builders, for example, the other thing that I've discovered, because I was a strategist for them for quite some time, is all these people with these amazing messages have no way or no conduit to get the visual identity, the visual assets that they need to actually really catapult a brand, right? So I made a decision that I want to help people who are like me, again, serving the person I used to be, eliminate the frustration of not having a quality visual identity. And your iPhone's great, and don't get me wrong, or your Samsung, whatever you're using, right? That's great. But it's not the same as graphics and lower thirds and slide-ins. It's not the same as LED walls and elation lighting and intro music that makes you feel like $1 million, right? When the speakers come through this organization, when they come through one of my businesses and when we help them create that visual identity, that conduit, they get the experience of already being $1 million brand, even though they may not be that right now. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to make sure that those people don't give up. Because building a personal brand is not easy.
No. But I think at the same point, what I hear from you is you're not doing it for accolades. You're doing it because you want to serve that person you used to be, because you're like, hey, I want to help them get through this. This is one of the beliefs I have. You know, we get stuck into this, and you mentioned these. I love how you shared these brands with that are just moldy cheese once you plop the lid, because to me that it's kind of almost like it's almost like this cotton candy. They're like, where's the substance to it? Like, no, really, what have you gone through? What are your values other than you're just really good at putting stuff on and marketing it? Like, how are you really helping people? Like, what are you actually doing with your hands to help people? Yeah. And I look at this and I believe this. Our greatest opportunity as a generation to help others is to be that bridge between, you know, the Steves, your dads, those people that have really served you, and the next generation coming that's never had those experiences. But the only way to tell those, to share that, is to do it and tell it. Yep. And do it and tell it. You can't, just put out videos, whatever else. And it's like, no, I want to be able to feel, is that really Stephen? Like, if we're in a room and we're in a room together, is that really who he is? Or is that just a really, really good video that he had, curated? But then you see the videos of him behind the scenes and he's berating the hotel staff. He's berating the people. It's like, we have such a world to where that's going to get exposed, that if you're like that, you may have success today, but you're not going to have success long.
Yeah, I mean, you're one device away from being exposed. I look at it differently. One of the ways in which I look at, especially with the what I'm trying to do now with Transform Me Live and some other stuff, is I have this this desire to be sincere and to be authentic and to help as many people as possible. Okay. In doing so, I know that every word that I say carries weight and has a responsibility to that word. Which means, if I'm focused on being a guru and solely marketing to make money, not marketing to make an impact, if I'm doing it that way, then I'm going to hurt people along the way. And I refuse to hurt anybody in my path, because I know what it's like to be broken. I know what it's like to be hurt by somebody else's words. I know what it's like to not be believed in. I know what it's like to be discouraged. I know what it's like to look at myself and feel all those things. And what I want to do is I want to help people be set free from that. And the only way you can do that is to just be real and transparent with people. In fact, one of the things that I'll just share this with you. You haven't seen me present on stage yet, but in fact, your audience will now know this, and now I'm not sure you'll be looking for it. You will never see me on stage without a white pair of shoes on. And the reason you won't do that is because I want to remind myself on a continual basis that I'm walking on holy ground. It's holy ground to walk on a stage and influence lives. It's holy ground to get on a microphone and talk for 45 minutes or an hour. It's holy ground to put out a YouTube video. It's holy ground to put out a mini series. It's holy ground. That is holy ground, because someone is going to see it. Someone is going to listen to it. Someone is going to take action on it based on what you taught them. And if you didn't teach them something correctly and they hurt themselves or they hurt somebody else as a result of your neglect, then I'm sorry, there's a huge responsibility on that. So I'm a big proponent of putting things around you, reinforceable routines, putting things in your circumference that remind you of who you are and where you came from. Because if you don't do that, and all of a sudden all the hard work starts to pay off, and you start getting invited on this show and that show, and you're traveling around the country and you're doing all this stuff, and it's going to be about the Ferrari and the Bentley and the whatever, which, by the way, none of that stuff feeds people.
It doesn't feed you. People. It doesn't feed you.
No, it makes you empty. I have some nice things, but you'll never see them on Instagram or you'll never see them on Facebook, because my wife and I have decided that our goal is to have our household be our household and have our impact be our impact. Period.
Mm-hmm. No, I appreciate it. I love it. It's something that I align with, and I think that's where, to me, why do you build your set? Why do I take care of cows?
Yeah.
And to the same point, I know you have children. I got to be that example to my children too, because that's my first priority. Is what am I showing them? What's important in life? Is it showing that Dad got up at 3 o'clock and he didn't get home until the next night at 9 or 10 o'clock, and he was gone for 2 days and he drove 2,000 miles. Why do you do that? Because he went and delivered cows, and because it was time to get away and do it. But it's also like there's never a question, hey, is my dad a hard worker? Because I grew up with a dad who was a very hard worker. And that's something that if I look at a core value, and I know this is something we share, is work ethic. Mm-hmm. And I have to, as a dad, as a leader, as you've exemplified as well, if I'm not showing that, then all I am is a talking head. Yeah, I mean, I heard that a boss is just another name for a doofus with a title or something like that, right? Kind of thing. So it's like I forgot where I heard that, but I heard that somewhere, and it sounds like a Ramseyism. I mean,
it might be a Ramseyism. It's funny, but I was walking around my business one time, and we had hired some new team members, and I hadn't met them yet. So I walk up to one person, I'm introduced to one person, and they're like, "Hey, this is Stephen," and then one of my guys goes, "He's one of our new field managers." And I kind of like chuckled to myself, and I said, "Yeah, it's nice to meet you," or whatever. That team member went around for literally 3 weeks thinking I was like one of the and then he was kind of like, "Why is the field manager teaching the team about running a business? I don't get that," right? You just have all these different things where people just want you to be real. They don't want you to be faking it. They want you to respond to their needs just as much as you respond to yours. And when it comes down to business, leadership, family, all of that, we are communicating more by body language than we are by words on a day in and out basis.
Absolutely.
Day in and day out. Right? My kid watches me wake up at 5 like you were just talking about every morning. Does he see me pray and meditate first thing in the morning? Probably not see, but he hears me talk about it all the time, so I guess he assumes it's true, right? Does he see me at the gym? Yeah, because he's been coming in 30 minutes behind me to kind of like follow in his father's footsteps kind of stuff. I put my kid on a YouTube. We do these things called face-to-face or Q&A videos that we do on YouTube, and I put him in the chair one day and put him on camera. And he started like spouting off all these, what I guess you would refer to as Stephenisms. Yeah. And I was like, where'd you learn that? I've been watching you. Mm-hmm. Your kids, your team. That's the thing, is everybody's always watching. Don't try to be something you're not, but don't try to be less than you are.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. It's don't be what you're not, but don't be afraid to be what you are, but don't be afraid what you're not, but hold that higher standard for yourself.
The higher the standard, the greater the performance.
Yeah.
The higher the standard, the more escalated the climb. The higher the standard, the greater the impact.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love this conversation. I can hang out with you all day.
No, it's been, I was very much looking forward to this. And again, there's so many similarities, trials. And I kind of want to, really tap into this one. This is, I heard you say, and I don't know if it was a podcast or book or whatever. And to me, it was really good. It was something that I've actually experienced the last day or two. And it's something you said, and this is paraphrase, is, do we discourage people from stretching even though they could get hurt? Mm-hmm. I'll share this. I just found out that my brother who works for me, works with me, partners, he's going to be moving away. He's going to be moving a couple thousand miles away. And that hurts. But yet it hurts because I'm going to miss my brother. Yeah. This is a brother that I didn't live with for, like your brother for years because of just age difference for us. But where that hurts at the same point, that's me and my emotion. I'm excited for him to go spread his wings and go do something and just experience and know, hey, dude, you're going to learn something. And as a brother, I'm more excited about that than, hey, I can't just walk out of the garage and see you. It's like, hey, I'll get over that. That's just my petty emotions that I got to go through. That's empathy. But yet I'm excited for the journey you're going to take. And you know what, dude? You may absolutely fall on your face. But you know what? There's people that love you that are going to be right there beside you and say, I believe in you. Let's go. Yeah. And I think what I heard when you shared that was exactly that for me.
Well, and I learned that lesson from a pretty valuable place, and that was the moment in which I had the decision to start my first company or not start my first company. Right? I was put in a situation where Steve Meyer could just give me a second chance, a one that I very clearly did not earn. Just to put that completely like total act of grace. I went over to go reframe a garage door of this house next door, and I was literally listening to the guys that had taken over from me complain about Steve and how they owed him money and all this kind of stuff, none of which was true, by the way. And I had this moment where it fired me up and I got so mad that they were like talking bad about Steve, like, oh, are you kidding me? And of course, I was feeling it. It wasn't necessarily coming out of my mouth. That I was walking back, and I heard this whisper in my heart and said, isn't that what you did? Which fired me up in a different way.
Sure.
So much so that when Steve came back around the corner, we were getting our checks, or my dad was actually getting the check. Then my dad walked over to me and handed me my check, and then I walked past him to go talk to Steve, and I was like, on his window. He rolls down his window from his Jeep Grand Cherokee, and what can I do you for, boy? And I was like, well, these guys over here, they're coming back Monday, whatever, can I take over for them? He laughed at me with what tools, what equipment, what money, what credit. You ain't got squat. Like I had nothing. My Beacon score was like 400. Like it was horrible. And I just said, I'll figure it out. I don't really have any other. I'll figure it out. And he was kind of stunned. And just before he rolled up the window, he said, I'll tell you what. If they don't come back Monday by 9 a.m., I'll let you finish that house and we'll go from there. I said, okay, cool. Window comes up. He pulls off. And this is where that story comes into power. My father come over to me, and he was livid. Dude, I just got you back on the framing crew. What the heck are you thinking? Are you out of your ever-loving mind? Kind of like coming at me with that whole Scoggins don't get ahead, get by vibe. And it took me some time to realize that one of the reasons he was so hurt or so challenged by that particular moment wasn't necessarily because he wanted to challenge me or hurt me or hold me back. It was because he had a business 3 years earlier that failed. He was scared of me getting hurt. He was scared of me getting hurt. And maybe in your brother's example, whatever, maybe it's very similar. It's like, this is something I have to do.
Yeah.
I'll figure it. It's going to be hard. I know it's going to be hard, but I'll figure it out. And of course, the conversation. I was elevated. I was passionate. He was yelling at me. I was yelling back at him. I'm going to do it. Ah! Right. And lo and behold, My father turns around, shuts his mouth, never says another word, goes over to the old van, opens the door, pulls out a nail gun. These massive nail guns back in the late 90s were like massive and heavy. Pulled it out, starts pulling the saw out, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Do you remember what we used to build scaffolding out of?" I'm like, "Yeah." "What?" "Wood. Pump jacks, wood. Walkboards, wood. Braces, wood. Ladders, wood. Cut horses, saw horses, wood. Saw bench, wood." All right, go start pulling stuff out of the trash piles. First time in my life, the person who was most scared for me and terrified for me in that moment showed up. Now, what the audience we haven't got into, you know that my dad wasn't around a whole lot growing up. And so that meant a lot more to me. I still talk about it this day. Like, it was such an impactful thing.
Sure.
And as a result, 9 a.m., actually 9:02 a.m. on Monday morning, I was sitting on the curb. Steve rolled down the window and said, "Boy, what you waiting on?" I went to work. And I never looked back. That was December 20th of 1998. And I just think sometimes how much we are either getting held back by somebody else who's scared for us, or how much are we holding people back because we're scared for them? Not realizing that the whole journey of life is all about learning in adversity and sacrifice. That's what it's all about. It's okay for someone to fall on their face. It's okay for someone to get bloody knuckles or skin up knees. It's okay. Because that person is going to be able to go back and help someone else at a younger age, preferably that when they started their journey, and say, hey, would you like to avoid that bloody knuckle? Great. Yep. Awesome. Here's my life. Blah.
Yeah.
Oh, you're really trying to help me. Not you're just trying to keep me from my dream.
And I think there's, and that was part of the conversation we said. It's like, hey, I've screwed up. Here are the things that I've learned. I'm not telling you what to do. I would feel bad if I didn't share this with you so you can learn it too. I've made those mistakes, losing business. I've gone through that, starting business, going to work for someone, whatever, been through that. And I think that's the great value in mentorship. And it's that great value of understanding, hey, your darkest hour is also what brought about the greatest transformation. I think you shared something to that point, and I believe that totally.
Yeah.
If I can look back, it took me 23 years to understand how. From the day that, like my brother died till I understood about it, how I dealt with things, 23 years. And it was a painful point in there, but it's also, I understand, hey, dude, that's our greatest opportunity. That's where for you saying, hey, I had to tuck my tail between my legs, and I go over to Steve and say, I'll take care of it. Because I had this burning desire, and he believed in you enough to say, all right. Well, and that belief is a superpower. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that made it so even more powerful, and probably, again, this is hindsight, one of the reasons I may have been so driven is because I know that I chose to let him down the first time.
Gotcha.
Because of my depression and some of the other things I was facing. I chose it. I knew I was capable of more, and I know I didn't deliver it when he gave me generosity the first time around, when he tried to help me the first time. And as a result, I also understood a new principle, if you will, because principles govern promises. And that was that a mentor's words are only as good as the mentee's ears.
Another way to put that is, what I've heard is, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, right?
Yep, exactly.
I mean,
look, here's the thing.
It's good stuff.
Most of the most pivotal moments in my life that have ultimately put me where I'm at today. Okay, now, granted, God willing, I'm not finished. Like, there's more for me to do, more for me to go and help and stuff. But I had this interesting epiphany that the most challenging moments in my life are the most innovative moments in my life. They were the moments that created the ability to have unstoppable, relentless focus and grit. They were the moments, because I had no choice. There wasn't a methodology for me to sit in fear. There wasn't a methodology for me to sit in my distractions and my excuses. And what holds most people back more than anything else, no matter what they're doing, isn't they're not capable of more. It's the fact that they'd rather have a distraction or excuse become their definition of their identity. And when you let that happen, and you don't realize that adversity is there to make you, not destroy you. I mean, once you get that, you are literally unstoppable, because there's nothing that can stand in your way. I don't have enough money. Okay, I got to get more creative. I don't have the right team members. Okay, I have to work a little harder while I find the right team members. I'm not being the best father I know I need to be. Okay, I need to get home earlier and put the phone away. I know that I'm not being the best husband I can be right now. Okay, great. I need to put the phone away. I need to do the right thing. I need to do all the you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's all of that, and then rolled up into some. And distractions and excuses are what's holding people back. Stop letting it hold you back.
I think what's so great about that is, it's not only a personal thing. When do all great businesses start? In times of, challenge, adversity, obstacles. We're in 10, 15 years, maybe not in that long, we're going to look at all the great businesses that started in 2020. All the great businesses that evolved in 2020. Why? Because they had to.
Yep.
And to me, I think there's this element coming, and I look at, some of the things you've done, and even people like Stephen. You're running these organizations. You have these things. Why are you going out and working as a brand strategist? Why are you doing those things? Why? Because it's a challenge that's going to make me creative. It's
Yeah.
something that I got to force myself into to where I can go learn and grow. And I came up with this, one of our businesses. It was tough. We ran a gym for 5 years. It's worse than milking cows. But I looked at that as education costs. Education costs, period.
Absolutely.
You can go to classical, you can go to college, you can go to seminar, whatever. It costs. Or you could go get your hands dirty. You can go start a business. You can go do whatever, and you may lose money. What education costs. But every time you learn and you apply it and you relearn, it's worth it. Every single time.
Absolutely. You know, I've always said that there's really two ways to learn: by the experience of others or by the experience of your own. That's it.
Yeah.
You're learning by one or the other. You know, I'm one of God's most stubborn children on the planet. Like, I have to be hit with 4x4s for me to sometimes correct my path and open my ears and stuff like that. You know, when I started working as a brand strategist with Rory and AJ, they were very surprised. They're like, what are you doing? Like, I don't get it. Like, you don't need, like, no offense, we pay decent, but, you know, an hour of your time is worth more elsewhere. And I'm like, that may be true, but the impact is not the same. The impact is not the same. Me helping someone who's got a developing a brand of their own, awaken what's inside of them, is transformational. Me learning how the process works from the inside out is better for me because I understand it better from the inside out.
100%.
Rather than someone just teaching at me.
Yeah.
You know? And that comes from that level of self-awareness that we were kind of talking about at the very beginning of the show. It's like, you've got to be willing to be open up to discovering who you really are, how you really learn, right? Those are types of things that I'm trying to do consistently to help other people open their own journey up.
The reality is, if we don't do that, if we're not willing to do those things, then we're never going to truly be able to serve those people that we're trying to help.
Exactly.
Because to me, that comes to really being empathy lived out. Is in order to be, for me, in my opinion, to be empathetic, you have to, understand your insecurities, but at the same point, you have to be curious enough to why you had those and or curious about others. And to me, that's how, to be a great leader, as I hear from you and your heart, it just displays it, is because there's this tremendous amount of compassion and empathy to say, I want better for people, and I'm not going to, get better from them for me without getting better for them. If that all I kind of twisted there, but it's like, I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for others. I'm just going to be along for the ride, and it's going to be great for all of us. Yeah.
I mean, the reality is there is no, and I want everybody to just take a moment and pause your video, pause your audio, whatever. This is so important. So important. If you want to live a life of meaning and purpose, you have to understand this one concept. Without compassion, there is no connection. You are not going to connect with anybody on this planet. You are not going to be able to serve them, whether it's a business or relationship. You cannot do it unless you can connect to someone. And you can't connect to someone if you can't have compassion for someone. Part of our biggest struggle that we see across the United States right now is there's no compassion. There's no desire to find understanding. There's little to no desire to see people for what they've been through and the things that they faced, to better understand what it is that they're trying to overcome. I'm going to be opposite of that. I'm going to let every interaction that I have with a human being hopefully add value to their life, and hopefully I gain value from their life by simply having a connection. Simply having a tie. The whole reason you and I kick it off so much is not just because of the similarities. It's because we started this entire conversation by wanting to add value to each other's lives. That's it.
Yeah.
And as a result, we'll both leave this meeting at some point in time, and we'll both go tell our friends and family, I had the most amazing conversation today. You see what I'm saying? That's how connections build. You want to scale your organization, you're going to have a network. You're going to have team members. You're going to have to be able to scale the people just as much as you scale the business. It's not on a stinking spreadsheet.
Well, that's the thing, is the business is the people.
Exactly.
Right. The business, and not to get too deep into this because we can go probably 30 more minutes about it, but as you recognize in your businesses, I heard this and I see it and I experience this, your business isn't the product that it delivers. In your business, when it started, it wasn't about putting siding on the house, as you learned. It was about how can I impact my customers and or the people doing the job in that process That's what the business is all about. And to me, that's the great, exciting opportunity. Got to remember, like, maybe you don't understand. I used to be a nutritionist for cows. I talk to more cows every day than I ever talk to people. And you know, to understand, to get away from that, it's like, oh, it's all people. That's what's exciting is to impact people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the reality is you have to be able to scale your life, and you can't scale your life if you can't scale how you connect with people, right? People that are isolated and alone are isolated and alone because they're scared to connect. They're scared to connect because they probably had some instances where it was really hurtful that somebody connected with them and it was just the wrong person. So that person just needs boundaries and a framework and standards. That's it. And then they can have confidence. Then they can build the networks and the connections and begin to have the opportunities that they're really kind of so scared of. I've discovered that nothing moves you further quicker than pain. It's like you're okay in the comfort zone, if you will, until such a time that the pain itself is what pushes you out of it. Every major growth spurt I've ever had in my life, whether it be owning a business, being a leader, being a father, being a dad, or being a husband, all of them came from doing it wrong the first time. And wrong with zeros, wrong with frustration, wrong sleeping under the stars because I didn't have a freaking shelter. Because of my pride. My pride and my ignorance and my excuses. Talk about roadblocks. You remove pride, ignorance, and excuses, and you are unstoppable. Will you wake up to that, though? That's the question that people have to ask. Am I willing to wake up?
Here's the thing I want to tie it in, though, is we can't do that alone. We can't do that alone without, you know, from a spiritual point of view, I believe, you know, God's a big part of that. Obviously, God puts people in our lives to expose that to us. You know, the value of mentorship, that's what allows it. Those people that you link arms with, you know, to pull out Navy SEAL terms like, hey, you're linking arms with the guy next to you to get through the Coronado surf, or you're going to die. It's not going to happen. And I think, to me, that's the great value is who are you putting around you that are going to link arms with you to say, Stephen, it's not working. Hey, maybe you don't see this. Tyler, stop. You're, you know, X, Y, and Z. You're better than that. You have a bigger opportunity. And I think that's what's powerful in leadership is when we can do that for others and they can do that for us. It doesn't matter about title, rank, or whatever, because if we're all here to serve people, none of that matters.
Exactly. And that's a maturity thing. That takes time. Most, if not all of us, start off in the selfish category. And through life experiences and through things that you work through, you figure out, you know what? I actually get greater joy by making sure someone else's life is better. It's kind of a quasi-selfish thing in a weird kind of backwards kind of way. You know what I'm saying? But it's a maturity thing that I think elevates you to the standards in which you allow yourself to become. I don't know where my life's going to end up. I don't know how far I'll travel, how far I'll go. God knows. But I'm going to be faithful with my little right now. So if the time comes, I can be made master over much. And once I'm made master over much, I'm going to cast more seed. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. It's totally about perspective, and people have to have the right perspective, period.
Oh, man, I love it. We keep going all day. I'm going to respect your time. I'm going to respect those listening to us. You know, I'm so excited to share in the show notes all the stuff about you, transform you, you know, all CHE stuff, everything Stephen Scoggins. Man, thank you so much for you know, making this opportunity available. I appreciate it. I come to these interviews and conversations to build a new friend, build new friendships, and I truly believe I've done that today. And I thank you for just being you and being that light to share and to help others, you know, to help people grow from, you know, what you were and what you are now and as you continue to grow. So thanks so much, man.
Dude, it's sincerely my honor. And yes, you succeeded today in making a new friend. And if you're listening right now and you're not really sure where your life is headed or where your business is headed and you need some help, be my guest at Transform You Live in October, 21st to the 23rd. You can come live or you can come virtually. You'll have about 3,500 to 4,000 people in attendance. I've got well-known thought leaders coming in from all over the world, or literally all over the world in some cases. And we're here to help you win. So if you're interested in that, hit transformyoulive.com. If you want to find me on social, hit Stephen_Scoggins. And as a result, I want to connect with you. I want to connect with everybody. Ty, again, thank you so much, dude.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.